Booktube, what's it look like I'm doing? Um, Hush. I'm trying to do something over here with my phone. Um, well, because I said hush. Because I'm over here doing the Pentathon and Brewster's Millions and every other readathon that takes place this month. For some reason, I know what the reason is, but for some reason, I read a couple Meg books. I was waiting for my Amazon credit to come in, or my Audible credit, and kaplowy. So, I read Hell's Aquarium, which has a scene that looks like it's from the movie, but it's not. And this scene is not in the book, I don't think. So I read that, and you want to know what I did? I gave it 4 stars and drew a shark fin. It was better than The Trench, but not as good as Primal Waters or the first Meg book. I think the only reason why, well, it's not the only reason, but there were a couple reasons why it didn't get like perfect, and the reason is because and apparently I found out this was a spoiler according to Zoe, who was very upset. So I will try to say it differently. Knock it off, guys. Every time. They've been laying on the couch sleeping. I get on here, start doing this, and they start wrestling around. Okay. So there's a main character that some people don't like. I myself like him. And I think the reason why this series is as good as it is because of the cast in it. You have... I don't want to ruin anything. So anyway, I can't really tell you anything about it, apparently. But the main cast of this series is really good. Okay? So, the problem with Hell's Aquarium, before I talk about the pluses for it, is that this is the first time where we kind of focus our attention on a new protagonist. And the old protagonist is still in it, but very little compared to other books. And because this new protagonist is a lot younger, it gives the book a very different feel. And they even tried to give the new protagonist a younger version of the same sidekick, which is weird. But and it just makes it weird. And a lot of the maturity of the book seems, or of the series, seems to not be there, obviously, because now our protagonist is like 20 instead of like 50. So, of course, it's going to be a little bit different. Another thing is, for those of you who like the restricted section, I would love if you could read all of the books and then tell me what you think. But I know Sue didn't like the first book. Okay. But there's a character who has brain damage from the war, and his brain damage has made him bipolar, and now he just like will spout random facts like all the time for no reason. And that's because of his bipolar disorder, because of his brain injury from the war. And I don't know how factually accurate any of that stuff could be. And that made it a little difficult. But about a quarter of the way into the book, it got so dull, so boring. And I think it's because in all the books leading up to this, we've known the characters going in. And so we don't need a huge amount of character development. We go into the book and it's just like kaboom, 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 kaboom. Whereas this book, even though it is a character we know, it's not a character who we've been like kind of forced to be with, I guess. So there was a lot of character development. There was a lot of his situation in Dubai. There was just a lot of information, and this book and the next book have more like just historical or historical fiction information thrown into it that it's like almost too much. It's like, am I reading a fucking history book? Am I going to be tested on this, or am I reading a freaking fun ass book about sharks? Okay. So, I keep wanting to say Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Aquarium, which I had up here a second ago, deals with sharks or megs, but not a whole lot. It's like half meg, half not meg problems. But after that second quarter of the book, the last half, I was so all in, and I was just like, why do you keep doing this? Give me your paw, Dad. It, like, the last half of the book could be made into a movie that would be so flippin' riveting. Like, if you liked that one movie, 40 something meters below, or whatever it's called, where they're in the shark cage, possibly Open Water, but I think there's a shark cage open water movie. I just haven't seen it. Any kind of claustrophobic thing like that, the last half of this book is so worth reading the first half. Hi. And the beginning of the book is good too. It's just there's like this chunk that is so fucking dull. And we're having to learn about a new main character. And I think I was just maybe bummed out that I was getting the old switcheroo. But so at the end of the day, I did like it. So now let's talk about no TLC, guys. Sorry. Let's talk about the next book I read, Meg, Nightstalkers. Wow, you got a ship, you got a couple Megs that look kind of tiny, and a swimmer. Man, you're probably thinking nothing could happen in this book but awesomeness. No. Let's go over why. Um, the story takes place from where the other one left off. In fact, the first chapter of this is like an expanded version of the last chapter of Hell's Aquarium. Sorry. Get off the table! Get down! Oh my gosh. Get down. Oh, she's not listening to me at all. Sally, not you. You're fine in the chair. Get off the table. Mina, get down. Jesus. What is this? Okay. Um so the ending to Hell's Aquarium was so shocking to me. Like, it just was like, I did not expect it to end that way. And that, in and of itself, is kind of a rarity. So, giving that one a 4-star on the star rating thing makes more sense. This one, okay? Nightstalkers. Which, the title isn't great. In fact, in Hell's Aquarium, I don't think they ever said Hell's Aquarium, but they say it in this one. My dogs want me to lose my mind. They don't want me to do booktube. They want me to do puptube, which is me just talking to them. Okay. I lost my train of thought. Maybe I'll go outside. I don't know. So there were large problems with this book. And what they were, mainly, the thing that like sticks out like a sore thumb is there is a character introduced who is a character from Steve Alton's The Lock series. And if you don't read, I guess it's the second book of the Lock series, a huge portion of this book won't make sense to you. Or you are just getting like regurgitated information from that book. Now, I would have loved if I would have known that I needed to read, I can't remember what it's called now. Voltalk or something like that. Because I would have because I've been wanting to read The Lock. So I would have gladly read those 2 books before getting to this if I would have known that I needed to know that information. So now what the bummer is that so much information about that book, I think, was given in this that I think the ending of that other book, which totally sucks. Like, there should have been something like at the beginning, like, hey, if you haven't read Hell's Aquarium and The Lock #2, this book is going to destroy everything that happens in those 2 books. So that like really pissed me off, and it took me a while before I realized what was going on. And then I kept hearing that word, which is the title of the second book. And I'm like, hang on a second. And so I went and looked to see if the character who was in this book is actually the character from that book. And it is. And so now I don't know if a bunch of my Meg characters are going to be in the Lock series or not. And it seriously bummed me out more than anything. I hate spoilers. I hate like when I go see a movie or when I watch a TV show or even when I read a book. That's what's actually hypocritical about what I'm doing right now. When I read anything at all, I don't want to know dick about anything. Like a book cover could be like, oh, here's a good example. Like this book cover right here. Boom. Has some money. Tells you absolutely nothing about the story. Just pick it up and read it. That's all I want. I don't want to know anything. I want to know absolutely nothing. I want everything to be a surprise. I want everything to be exciting and new. And I just really feel like I got effed out of the Lock series. So I don't even know if I'm going to read them. I'm so pissed. So if you have read these, basically I guess I'm only talking to Erica. If you have read that stuff, please let me know if I like totally just ruined everything. Because I'm really bummed out about it. I really, really am. Now, I just again I finished Hell's Aquarium yesterday and finished Nightstalkers today. Now here's the thing that's funny. I got my Audible credit and then I used it and then I went back on Audible and I still had a credit. So I don't know what happened, but then I got my other book, but I still have only been charged for my monthly Audible subscription. So I felt like I needed to hurry up and listen to both books in case they tried to take one from me. So that's why I've listened to like 27 hours of books in 2 days because I've been afraid that they would steal them back. But anyway, so that was like the big bummer. Jonas plays a bigger part in this one than he did in the last one. But the bigger part he plays is predicated on, I guess, what happens in the second Lock book, which is just driving me absolutely crazy. Another thing is that the majority of this book takes place in Antarctica, which is kind of a different location, so that's cool. But the Megs in this book are few to none. There are, there's probably like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the ending. So there's like 4 scenes with Megs in them out of that whole fucking book. They're constantly chasing other animals. And the thing that makes it difficult on the audiobook version is that they'll just throw names out and then they abbreviate the name. So once, like, it would be like me saying, here's a good example. I'm going to go chase this megalodon. And then the whole rest of the time I just call it a Meg. Well, they'll be talking about some fucking dinosaur or some shit that I've never heard of, and then just call it a Lou. And so it's like there's a part of me that wants to stop what I'm reading and go and like look up this creature so I get a better idea of what it looks like or whatever. But because I listened to an audiobook of it, I couldn't do that. So that kind of bummed me out a little bit. And then I didn't know exactly where it was, so I couldn't like rewind to it. I know I could probably just go, what creatures are in Nightstalkers? And like some Wikia or something would show up, but I don't want to get anything ruined. So I'm a pussy like that and I can't do it. So anyway, that's what's going on. But that whole thing with the lock just like destroyed how I felt about that book. Secondly, the big like heart-wrenching like major thing that happened in the last book is like a really big deal for about 10 minutes, and then something happens and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, and like that whole thing's gone, and I thought that was stupid and bullcrap. Another thing is that um I'll just say this, and maybe it'll be okay. Danny is missing from this book, and I don't know why. And I feel like if Danny died in the last book, which I like 99.999% sure did not happen. If Danny did die, I feel like they would have been beating us over the head with the fact that Danny died, because that's what Steve Alton does. Like, if something tragic happens, they beat you over the head with it 100 fucking times until you realize, like, oh yes, I realize now I must remember this information. And Steve Alton is really good about giving you information, like if you haven't read the prior books. In fact, with the exception of Primal Waters, I think in both Hell's Aquarium and this one, they talked about things that happened in every book. The other thing I do like about this series is that people who you never... I'm having mustache attacking my face issues. People who you never would expect to ever come back because they were such a minor character in one of the books, they always show up. What is going on? Come on, weird face hair, knock it off. I'm trying to do a video that's going way too long. Please play this video at 2 speed. I'm sure it'll be fine. So anyway, that's that. There were some in Hell's Aquarium. A character came up that I never thought I would ever see again, which was cool, and a character who kept popping up like in the first 3 books has still been important in these next 2 books, even though they're dead. So that's cool. I won't tell you who. Do you have dogs? How do you feel about it? Alright, BookTube. Well, read these. And until next time, I'll see you later.